Director Kim demonstrates his new ability to CEO. He uses an enhanced chi that looks like a Rasengan from the Naruto anime. He tells CEO that he risked his life and burned away his life force to get to this point. CEO is surprised to see the Rasengan. Director Kim then tells CEO that he was able to burst a core formation cultivator's arm thanks to this Rasengan. He releases the Rasengan at CEO's house to demonstrate its power to him. The Rasengan completely destroys CEO's mansion, and Director Kim tells him that this is the result of his life's work, training in martial arts. CEO is speechless and his eyes filled with tears because his friend just destroyed his mansion, which he worked his whole life for, just to prove a point. He had invested all the money he gathered for 50 years while living as the infinite fighting spirit into this house. But Director Kim just continues to laugh like a madman. He is overjoyed by his newfound power. He even ran far and wide to show CEO this power because he decided that he would leave his will to him. Bro, you just blew up this man's house like it was nothing. CEO was pissed and filled with rage for a moment, but he ultimately calmed himself down and watched Director Kim's martial arts performance. But still he keeps thinking about the place where his 3-story building had been exploded without leaving a trace. He is only glad that there were no servants in the house. Otherwise, hundreds of them would have all died with that one attack. The blade traces from the Rasengan can even still be seen there. So the ball of enhanced chi, or Rasengan, is just a concentration of 1,000 blade energies. That was the most unbelievable force he had ever seen. It's stronger than any martial arts Director Kim has shown him until now. Director Kim, who looks like he is about to pass out, explains to CEO that this is how he was able to burst a core formation cultivator's arm. Before, he had to ambush or assassinate the chi building stage cultivators for a chance, but now he can fight them head on. Before Director Kim can finish explaining, he passes out, and both he and CEO start falling from the sky. The two crush into the forest nearby. After their crash landing, Director Kim manages to tell CEO not to forget these techniques, because they are his life's realization. He should pass on his martial arts to future generations before he dies, I think. CEO tells Director Kim to stop talking since his life is at stake here. Suddenly, the cultivator who was chasing Director Kim pulls up, and CEO is startled by his presence. The condescending guy calls CEO a civilian and tells him to leave Director Kim here, since he is a criminal who has committed unspeakable crimes against the cultivators. But CEO, who is a loyal friend, carries Director Kim on his back and asks the cultivator if he is here to punish Director Kim for his crimes. The cultivator asks CEO if he is an acquaintance of Director Kim, and without even answering the cultivator's question, CEO starts to run away while carrying Director Kim's body on his back. The cultivator just stares at the fleeing old man CEO and says to him that what he is doing is pointless. Did he not hear about them from the ultimate martial spirit? That is the nickname given to Director Kim in this world, if you guys have forgotten. But instead of just quickly capturing CEO and Director Kim, the cultivator decides to hunt them as entertainment instead, and he releases some spirits and tells CEO to run as best as he can. What a pretty sick guy. CEO turns his head to look behind, and he is shocked to see that the cultivator summoned a bunch of undead to hunt them down. Old man CEO just knows that he is screwed. He is too old for this. The undead start chasing after him. While running, CEO tries to talk to Director Kim. He asks if the name Ultimate Martial Spirit was given to him by the cultivators. How strange this situation is, the ultimate martial spirit and the infinite fighting spirit. Two spirits being chased by the undead. But honestly, CEO is just talking to Director Kim to keep him awake. One of the undead manages to get close to them, and he tries reaching for Director Kim, but CEO quickly slices off his head and kicks him away from them into the rest of the undead following them. CEO continues to run and tells Director Kim that he should be the one running with CEO on his back. At this rate, he is going to die from suffocation, and he wonders how Director Kim got his arms cut off. Some days later, the undead, who can't get exhausted, since, well, on the count of them being dead, did not give up and continued to chase CEO, but CEO also bit down and kept running. Morning went by, and night passed by. At this point, the number of sunrises and sunsets that had passed was unknown to CEO. But finally, he was cornered with nowhere else to run to literally. CEO found himself at the edge of a cliff with the undead behind him. The cultivator, who is hovering in the sky, is impressed that a mere civilian like CEO managed to withstand the undead for 3 days and nights. However, he can't run anymore, and it's also futile to do so. The ultimate martial spirit is already dead. But CEO already knew that. He is a physician after all. The cultivator asks CEO, then why was he running? He was only interested in the ultimate martial spirit. He didn't care about CEO. CEO could have just abandoned the corpse and run off. CEO already knows that if he had done that, this cultivator would have turned his friend's corpse into an undead and used him for his dirty work. CEO starts laughing, and the cultivator becomes surprised at this. He wonders what is going on in CEO's mind. CEO draws his sword and thinks about all the points he reached, despite being void of talent. All his achievements were thanks to Director Kim's teachings. He's someone from his hometown, as well as his martial mentor. So if this cultivator wants to take his master's head, he will have to take CEO's own first. The cultivator becomes furious after hearing that. He tears off 2 arms from some of his undead and says that no one knows to fear the cultivators. He wonders if it's because CEO just doesn't know any better, or if he just has no fear because he is too old. It is definitely because he knows even if he dies, he will return. The cultivator decides to show CEO that cultivators have the power to show him pain worse than death. The cultivator sends the 2 floating hands to attack, but they bypass CEO, to his shock. When he turns to see who the real target is, the arms are already attached to Director Kim's corpse. Suddenly, Director Kim starts to move again. The cultivator calls CEO a parasite and swears to make him pay the price for looking down on cultivator. What a fragile ego this cultivator has. CEO is angry at the evil cultivator for doing this. The undead Director Kim rises to his feet, and the cultivator commands him to kill CEO. Director Kim screams out loud, and then he swings his blade to attack CEO, who manages to dodge the attack. CEO asks the cruel cultivator how he could dare to defile a man's legacy like this. But the bastard just smiles at CEO. Director Kim continues to attack CEO, who is dodging everything. CEO is thankful that Director Kim's corpse isn't able to use martial arts. He's merely attacking him using the sheer power the cultivator surged into him. But even just that sheer force and speed is crazy strong that it's hard for CEO's old body to withstand. CEO is seriously struggling to keep up with all of this. He feels it's already an incredible disgrace to point his sword at Director Kim, who is already dead. He feels sorry for doing this, but if there's nothing else he can do, he should end it as soon as he can. He draws his sword and prepares his Severing Mountain sword, 21st form, Heavenly Lake. He gets a flashback to the time he was explaining the technique to Director Kim. The 21st form of the Severing Mountain sword is called Heavenly Lake, but all of the other forms' names are related to some mountain, peak, or valley. CEO asks Director Kim why he thinks the 21st form is named after a lake. Director Kim is stunned for a while, and CEO thinks that since Director Kim created it in his past life, perhaps this Director Kim would have an answer. Director Kim explains that the Heavenly Lake reminds him of the Heavenly Lake atop Mount Baekdu. So maybe this world has a lake similar to Mount Baekdu's, or maybe the name was also created by people from Korea like them. The Heavenly Lake is a lake that reflects the sky itself. The Heavenly Lake holds the view of the skies within its surface, but its nature remains unchanged. The sky, symbolized in the teachings of the Severing Mountain sword, refers to the martial artist he duels with, and the lake, which encompasses the sky's view, refers to his single strike. CEO swiftly strikes Director Kim. CEO continues to explain that the Heavenly Lake of the Severing Mountain absorbs all the energy flowing in the op's veins into his sword energy for a single moment, ends up launching the enemy away, whilst their energy gets trapped in his sword. It's a move he can use because he's a first-rate physician and a master of understanding the 8 chi veins. It is a move only he can perform because this martial art was created specifically for him. If Director Kim's corpse remains intact, he may continue to be used as an undead soldier. That is why CEO mustn't let a single piece of him remain. CEO plans to use the energy churning within his sheath to combine all of the Severing Mountain sword's forms into a single attack. CEO uses Severing Mountain sword first form, Transcending Peaks, and when the attack lands on Director Kim's corpse, CEO continues to release all the remaining forms on Director Kim's corpse, slicing it into several pieces. CEO is determined to cut him completely, so that the cultivators may not defile his legacy further by controlling his corpse. But the cultivator also notices what CEO is trying to do, and he gives Director Kim's corpse more energy until he becomes fat and large. CEO is frustrated that the cultivator has given Director Kim even more power and speed, so he plans to dodge the incoming attack. But for some reason, he hesitates and stops. He thinks that there is no use in dodging since his life will end soon anyway. He knows that he is already as good as dead, so he plans to use this moment to ensure that his master is no longer defiled. CEO charges straight at Director Kim and plans to burn it all to take down Director Kim for good. Director Kim, with his hand up high like the Big Show from WWE, prepares to slap CEO, and even though CEO knows he is about to die, he still tries his very best to stay alive a little longer, to the point that even his mouth starts to bleed from pulling his body too far. He concentrates on the area around him, the noises, the smells, the humidity, and the temperature, the blood that wraps around the tip of his tongue. His brain even feels like it'll explode, and he'll let it explode more and more until his brain burns to a crisp. While he charges at Director Kim, something happens deep inside his brain, and CEO's eyes open wide in shock. His brain, which felt like it'd explode, instead of accepting the pressure formed from putting his life on the line, it surpassed something. He wonders what's going on. Has he become delusional? He suddenly notices a red line right in front of his eyes. Turns out the red lines are the attack patterns of his ops. And thanks to this red line showing him Director Kim's attack pattern, he was able to dodge a very deadly attack. He also saw a blue line that leads his sword to something. So he followed the blue line with his sword, and he was able to slice up Director Kim. CEO finally realizes that he has gained the vision of a martial artist who has reached the martial peak. Even Director Kim, who was an undead, noticed this and was smiling. Talent blessed by the heavens and talent forsaken by the heavens. They were polar opposites. But the reason they were somehow similar was because they were both ultimately struggling to escape the fate given to them by the heavens. CEO quickly zoomed past Director Kim, and a second later, Director Kim was split into several pieces. CEO thinks that there is no genius or dunce. There are only two men who struggled against their fates their whole lives, one dead and another on death's door. After defeating the undead Director Kim, CEO sees his spirit smiling at him and asking him if he's going to stop here. CEO disagrees. He leaps into the air and performs the 15th form, Layered Mountain, to completely destroy the cliff. The cultivator becomes furious because of what CEO did. But CEO, who is falling to his death, is pleased with himself because he knows now that even the cultivator won't be able to defile Director Kim's corpse any longer. He smiles and hopes his martial arts master can finally rest in peace. And so he finally attained the level of martial arts he had desired for so long, and put an end to this life of continuous struggles. Fourth regression begins. CEO opens his eyes, and again he is back at the start of everything, back in the forest. It seems he regressed again. In his previous life, he certainly resisted until the very end. But finally, he has ascended. He excitedly screams out loud. Just kidding, he screams. Finally, at last, I reached the threshold of the pinnacle. He attained the heights he had coveted for ages. And then again, the Nepo baby comes at him, questioning why the hell CEO is even saying. He moves his hand to try to slap CEO, as usual. But this time, after reaching the martial peak, CEO can see the red line. He closes his eyes and ducks to dodge the slap. Even while closing his eyes, he can clearly see where the Nepo baby's next move is headed. In the past, he could also dodge his attacks even while closing his eyes, but that was based on several decades of martial arts training and dodging by predicting where he'd strike. Now it's different. This isn't a prediction, but more like a premonition. So bro basically has ultra instinct. He finally realizes why. No matter how many first-rate masters there are, they wouldn't be able to beat one pinnacle master. A pinnacle master would be able to clearly see the direction and trajectories of attacks from one inferior to them. So how would a first-rate warrior ever win? Then, this time he can instinctively tell the blue lines indicate his ops vulnerabilities and the optimal paths for his attacks. The red lines enable him to read his ops attacks, and the blue lines allow me to attack optimally. Because there is a significant difference in power between the Nepo baby and him. So that must be why vulnerabilities are being revealed to him. Suddenly, CEO, starts to get a nosebleed, and his brain also feels like it is burning. He wonders if using the vision overloads his brain. But still, he manages to dodge the incoming attack from the Nepo baby, and the Nepo baby is upset that he still dodges attacks when everyone there almost died because of him. CO Karate chops the Nepo baby's neck to silence him for a while so he can rest too. The other co-workers become worried when the Nepo baby falls to the ground. While CO is feeling pain from using his abilities too, a female co-worker approaches him and asks if he is okay. CO knows he used the vision for less than a moment, but it feels too painful. He wonders what the problem could be. After some time, he managed to calm down his still confused co-workers and took them to their usual cave, lit a fire, roasted some fruits for them to eat, and put them to sleep like he is their parent or something. After his co-workers fell asleep, CO goes outside to train his martial arts with a stick. With the stick, he is able to slice a leaf in two. At this point, even with a blunt branch without any chi, he notices he is able to cut a leaf in half. The vision of the pinnacle realm seems to discern the paths of his ops attacks, with his brain automatically assigning red or blue to them. Using this vision, he can read all of his ops movements, and he can aim for their weaknesses with the optimal paths. He finally realizes that this is why, in his past life, Director Kim called his constant application of maximized senses an imitation of the pinnacle realm. It was to maximize his 5 senses to forcibly calculate the ops path of attack. This is truly amazing. This is what the vision of the pinnacle realm is. As the wind blows, lots of leaves fly in the air around CO. He closes his eyes and visualizes each one as an enemy coming to attack him with a sword. He swiftly slices all the imaginary enemies. He cuts them in every way imaginable. By daybreak, he breathes a sigh of relief at the fact that he is now a pinnacle master. It seems this guy spent the whole night cutting up leaves with a stick. He gets another headache. It feels like his brain is being fried. Still, after he found and ate 8 yellow bamboo roots and used the dragon vein, the dragon chi method, he's able to maintain the vision for an extra 2.5 hours. And now that he has risen to pinnacle master, there's no need for him to sell yellow bamboo roots, since he'd be able to sufficiently solve any financial problems with his ability. So he plans to give the remaining ones to someone else. He returns to the cave, and as he stares at Director Kim, who is sleeping, he thinks that the 6 volumes of insight that the past Director Kim gave him and the verses he left behind before his death remain within his head. If he transfers that knowledge to this Director Kim, this life's Director Kim will definitely surpass his previous life's Director Kim. Then, since he has also reached Pinnacle Master, the level of teachings he could receive from Director Kim will be incomparable. Though he hasn't even gotten a grasp of how he'll reach the next realm. There's only one thing a dullard like him can do compared to the geniuses here. That's training and endless training. He'll need to continue to maintain the vision of a Pinnacle Master for his brain itself to get used to it. His goal for this life is first to overcome the pain he feels when using the vision, and ultimately the 3 flowers gather at the summit. He will reach what's called the pinnacle of the pinnacle. The 3 flowers gather at the summit. Morning came, and the fox, known as the master of the forest, had arrived in this life as well. And as CO held out his arm to give to the fox, he grew curious. Would he see red lines with this fox as well? As he activated his vision, he saw that the fox was emitting red everywhere, and CO got scared upon seeing this. He quickly realized that he couldn't win, and just like that, he lost his arm again in this life. He wonders just what this is, how the entire area in his vision is filled with red. A few days later, when the cultivators arrived, he was shocked once more. They also emitted red everywhere, just like the fox. He quickly realized that this was the difference between a martial artist and a cultivator. He just can't win. There's no opening. Even a martial peak master would have trouble defeating the weakest cultivators, those who were at the first star of the chi refining stage. The day after the cultivators took his gifted co-workers away, he asked CO Huiol, the Sea Dragon King, a question. He respectfully asks if the Sea Dragon King can answer his question, and the Sea Dragon King asks what the question is. CO explained what he saw and asked about the red sphere the cultivators had. The Sea Dragon King explained that cultivators have a special kind of consciousness, which is named divine consciousness in some instances. While a mortal's consciousness doesn't extend past the brain, a cultivator's consciousness does, engulfing the surrounding area. He, a spiritual creature, also has said ability. He asks Seo if his curiosity is now satisfied. Seo responds yes, and thanks the Sea Dragon King as he walks away. Since Seo and the Sea Dragon King used the language of Yinghua, Director Kim was unable to understand the conversation. Shortly after the Sea Dragon King left, the hunchbacked old man on a puppet appeared again to take Manager Kim away. Guys, remember Manager Kim and Director Kim are two separate people. Manager Kim is the female coworker in green shirt, and Director Kim is the old man, who becomes young as the story progresses. Honestly, why couldn't the author give them different names? Anyway, back to the story. The old man once again throws both Seo and Director Kim into the spatial rift, also known as the randomizer. And this time, they land in the water. Seo is extremely shocked this time. But after some time, they both get out of the water, and Seo squeezes the water out of his clothes. He is upset that last time, he landed on top of a tree, and this time, he ended up in the water. What mess this is? Director Kim recovers and asks where they are. Seo tells him that they're somewhere completely different, and, judging by the landscape, he thinks this is the Chicken Head Lake of Yinghua, so Changho City should be nearby. Director Kim asks Seo what they should do now. If there are people nearby, they could ask for directions. Seo notices some buildings across the lake and tells Director Kim. He tells Director Kim that he knows how to swim, so he will go there and get them some clothes and food. But before Director Kim could say anything, Seo had already jumped into the water. As he swam across the lake, he complained that he had just squeezed the water out of his clothes, and now he was back in the water again. According to his memories, that building is a bandit's den, and he went there to wipe it out in his previous life. Their leader was in the later stages of first rate, and their vice leader was in the middle stage of first rate. The rest are third or second rate small fry. Of course, they have numbers, so he did poison his sword to take them out. One of the NPCs notices Seo, and they wonder who this fool is. Another NPC asks Seo if he knows where he just swam to. He should get lost if he doesn't want to die. But Seo just continues to approach them, so one bandit prepares to strike him down, and as he yells at him to get lost. But Seo quickly takes down the annoying guy with a punch, and the rest of the bandits open their mouths wide in shock. No one but the audience was expecting this outcome. Seo picks up the bandit's weapon, a wooden stick, and he points it at one of the bandits. And he asks a question, "How many people have you killed?" The bandit charges at Seo and responds that he has killed 50 people. Looks like we have a serial killer on our hands here. Without thinking about it twice, Seo takes off his head with the stick, and the rest of the bandits get upset seeing this. The nerve of these guys, you get upset when one of your own is killed, but you guys kill other people's loved ones for a living. Seo, not bothered by the stink eyes the bandits are giving him, calmly tells them that from here on out, if there's someone who has killed before, come at him. Inside the bandits' hideout, several high officials of the group are drinking and laughing like crazy. These guys are living their best lives. They have it all: money, alcohol, and captured women, until one person notices the Grim Reaper here to collect what they owe, their lives. Just joking. Ain't no Grim Reaper around. Just Seo standing there menacingly, with a stick in one hand and a head in the other. The big boss, who is just chilling in his chair, calmly tells his boys to get their weapons. They got a rat problem to take care of. The drunk men grab their weapons and prepare for the rat extermination exercise. Seo doesn't even need to ask these guys how many people they have unalived. They're all going to die. Sometime later, in the hideout, the head honcho is scared shitless upon realizing that Seo is a peak master, begs for mercy for Seo. Seo decides to ask him a question. Bro has become a bit talkative in this life. He asks the head honcho how long he has been there, and the guy tells him that it's been about 15 minutes. It took Seo a day to wipe them out in his previous life. He had to set this place on fire, retreat, and take them out one by one with a poison sword. But now, in just 15 minutes, he took all of them out with this stick alone. He decided to kill the bandit leader, and the leader tried to use stolen money as a bargaining chip for Seo to spare his life. But now, it's too late. After unaliving the head honcho, Seo tells the dead man that he already knows where the money is from the last time he was here. He goes and sets the captives and slaves free, and all of them bow their heads to thank him for taking revenge on the bandits. One of the captives asks if they may know Seo's title at the very least, they will ensure to pay their debt. CEO thinks about it for a second and mentions his old title, Infinite Fighting Spirit, from his previous life to them. Please like and subscribe to this channel for more. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.